Good evening, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. This evening, we begin with your weather. Flood watch in place on mild rainy day, and it's going to be a rainy evening as well. With more on that, let's go to meteorologist Kevin Scriba with a full weather forecast.
Flood watch remains posted for the southern half of the state through the afternoon as the rainfall will be heavy at times with the clogged storm drains, the frozen ground, and some of that snow continuing to melt on the side of the roads. We're expecting ponding out there in area roadways. Visibility fairly low, especially later this afternoon and in time for the evening commute. And well over an inch of rainfall by the time this winds down early this evening. You will notice there is a certain back edge that eventually goes over to snow. Most of that will be confined to northwestern sections of the state late this afternoon and into this evening as the rainfall starts to wind down. So you'll notice as we cycle through Futurecast during the afternoon, it is pockets of heavier rainfall and kind of a certain broken line that's going to try to come through. We could see a couple of wind gusts over 40 miles an hour out of the south once it does, and then winds turn to the west later in the day as the cooler air starts to rush in. We get beyond about 8 o'clock tonight again, changing over to snow in the north country with temperatures down into the mid-30s, while southern areas skies will start to clear. And you'll notice why we go from the mid-30s to mid-40s at around 8 o'clock this evening to likely below freezing by midnight up north and by 2 or 3 a.m. in southern New Hampshire. So there's a window of about 4 to 6 hours there between when the precipitation ends and temperatures drop below freezing. There could be some slick spots around early tomorrow morning before we recover back into the 20s to lower 30s tomorrow afternoon. Brisk wind out of the west and northwest. A couple of snow showers are going to be a possibility during the afternoon or early evening. That is a reinforcing shot of even colder air that arrives. Looks like temperatures will be in the 20s for the most part as we work our way through the day on Saturday. And then by the time we get to Sunday afternoon, we'll recover back into the low and mid 30s. So a brisk wind out there tomorrow will add the extra bite to the air. The chillier of the 2 days, but the brighter of the 2 days over the weekend will likely be Saturday. A few extra clouds, maybe a couple of snow showers later on Sunday. Next system doesn't look like a big one, but it could provide some light snow Tuesday.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report from meteorologist Kevin Scriba. And now let's take a look at your evening ride home and see how your traffic is doing this evening. And by the way, there are 34 closings and delays to pass along. If you want to see that complete list, just go to WMUR.com. And we got 3 weather alerts as well. If you want to see that, just go to WMUR.com. Now let's turn things over to traffic and see how the roads look like this evening. And here's a look at your traffic this evening. We're seeing a lot of green roadways and a lot of yellow and red roadways as well because of that rain, making the evening ride home a little slower than normal because of the heavy rain in some parts of New Hampshire. So you might want to take it easy and keep your speeds low due to the rain and visibility. But traffic is moving a little slower than usual. But no major issues or accidents to report. If we do have any major accidents or issues, we will be sure to pass that along to you right here on the Riley King Network. And now let's take a look at your news for this evening. First up, former Wolfboro teacher now faces trial after judge rejects plea deal. Let's take a look at the video from WMUR News 9, Ray Brewer.
Regret the pain that I caused the victim and the pain that I caused my family, and discuss that work with my community.
Former Kingswood High School English teacher Michael Harbrook was scheduled to plead guilty to 2 counts of witness tampering and 1 count of falsifying physical evidence. Underlying the charges, an inappropriate relationship with a student that began when she was 14. Under the plea agreement, Harbrook would have received a year in the county jail.
Okay, sir, tell me why, if indeed if you're found guilty of these charges, you don't belong in state prison.
Harbrook was originally charged with possessing sexually explicit files of a minor, and the prosecutor told the court Harbrook had an affair with the student. But any charges relating to that were dropped after it was determined the girl was over the age of consent, and no criminal charge could be proven.
The most that we were able to show there were violations of his teaching license and the rules of the school.
In defending the plea bargain, defense lawyer Caroline Smith noted Harbrook has no prior criminal record and is being punished for his affair with the student, even though he's not facing any charges in that regard.
In these circumstances, it is being punished harsher because of what is otherwise non-criminal conduct that led to it.
The judge denied a request from the defense to reconsider his motion to reject the plea bargain. Harwood remains free on bail. His trial now scheduled for February 4th. Reporting live in Laconia, Ray Brewer, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Nurse who used to work in Dover pleads guilty to misdemeanor drug charge. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Jennifer Crompton.
The nurse in this case was working at a long-term care facility in Dover in January of 2017 when she was accused of forging other nurses' names to get oxycodone that was intended for patients there. But today, instead of pleading guilty to 29 felonies, 47-year-old Jennifer Blaisdell of South Berwick, Maine, pleading guilty to a single misdemeanor of possession. The prosecutor says other witnesses would have testified that Blaisdell wrote their names in a secure drug book, but her attorney denies that.
We agree that there was mishandling of medications and that Jennifer did that. We agree that there was oxycodone, that was 2 pills that were set aside. That shouldn't have happened. That's not how it's supposed to work.
The judge took into account that no one had been deprived of needed medication, agreeing to that single misdemeanor charge with no jail time.
Ms. Blaisdell has a permanent, or will permanently surrender her nursing license in the states of Maine and New Hampshire, and is otherwise barred from providing medical care except to relatives for the next 5 years.
Blaisdell will also have to undergo a drug evaluation. In Dover, Jennifer Crompton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Dartmouth Hitchcock Granite One Hospital System to merge. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Siobhan Lopez.
We just sat down with the leaders from both organizations. They say this is something that's been in the works for months, and they believe this will have a positive impact for patients all across the state. Now, combined, the nonprofit healthcare system will be known as Dartmouth Hitchcock Health Granite One. They expect the merger to be complete by mid-2020. Now, you may remember a merge was attempted about 10 years ago, but that was before the systems were established, and they were looking to merge hospitals. Now, with this merge, the hospitals themselves will not change. Officials say the systems have collaborated for years, and by combining, they will be able to meet the growing demand for high-quality, low-cost health care at all levels and in all Granite State communities.
Patients will have more choices, and they will have better access to health care, more coordinated health care, and higher quality health care right here in New Hampshire.
It also will allow us to increase our inpatient capacity because we have the ability to access more of the bond markets to do necessary expansions.
And this is just the first step in their process, this letter of intent. They have set up a website for patients to visit if they have any questions or if they're seeking more information. We have a link to that on our website, WMUR.com. Live in Manchester this evening, Siobhan Lopez, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Bill would create new team to investigate environmental public health threats in New Hampshire. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Adam Sexton.
Drinking water contamination and the threat of environmentally triggered illness have become top public policy issues in New Hampshire over the last few years. The Coakley landfill, PFAS chemicals in the groundwater at Pease and in Merrimack and Litchfield, along with the Seacoast Pediatric Cancer Cluster, all have prompted public concern and questions directed to a Department of Health and Human Services too understaffed to deal with such widespread problems.
How they did not have fully adequate staffing to respond to questions about outbreaks or concerns about outbreaks of disease.
So Senator Tom Sherman, a doctor, has filed a bill appropriating $5 million through 2023 to fund a dozen new hires at HHS, including a state public health toxicologist, an environmental health promotion advisor, a water quality analyst and a clinical analyst, and 5 positions to staff a surveillance, investigation, and response unit. The idea would be to send this team into places like Merrimack when contamination or environmentally triggered illness is detected.
People in Merrimack are still living with contaminated drinking water, and are concerned, and they want some resolution of how do we make it stop? How do we protect our children?
There is some bipartisan support for this bill, but the governor's budget could include funding for some of these positions, so there's a lot of legislative process left before this team could become a reality. Adam Sexton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And now let's take a look at your U.S. stock market and see how your U.S. stock market closed for this Thursday evening. And here's a look at your U.S. stock market for this Thursday evening. Your Dow Jones Industrial Average closed in the red and went down. Your Nasdaq closed in the green and went up. S&P 500 closed in the green and went up. Gold closed in the green and went up. Oil closed in the green and went up. US 10-year closed flat. Euro/USD closed flat. And VAX closed in the red and went down. Dow falls after Commission Secretary says U.S.-China still far away on trade deal. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell on Thursday amid lingering concerns over U.S.-China trade negotiations. Talks brewing on possible short-term end to shutdown. Trump wants wall down payment. As some of the 800,000 federal workers were posed on Friday to lose their second paychecks aimed the longest ever government shutdown, bipartisan talks about a possible short-term compromise a 3-week short gap funding bill to reopen the government began late Thursday between Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. The White House signaled it was open to the idea, but instead that some short of money for the border wall President Donald Trump is demanding be included, something that so far Democrats have adamantly opposed. And that does it for the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all enjoy watching this evening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. And I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Good night, everyone. Bye.